So welcome to our celebration of love service. In a moment, I will light our chalice. I'm going to start, as we always start at Newcastle on Time Unitarians, with our statement of values. As Unitarians, we do not necessarily all believe the same thing, but we do have values we share that unite us. We welcome all who seek the meaning of life and who believe that human spirituality is wider than any one tradition and deeper than any one set of opinions. With a respect for our Christian origins, we now seek to explore truths from all sources. Our fellowship gives us strength and encouragement in daily living. And I will now light our chalice. Love is the aspiration, the spirit that moves and inspires this faith we share. Rightly understood, love can nurture our spirits and transform the world. May the flame of this chalice honour and embody the power and the blessing of the love we need, the love we give, the love we are challenged always to remember and to share. Words by Maureen Killoran. And now our first reading, Love is Like a Box of Chocolates by Reverend Sarah Movius Sher, a Unitarian Universalist. Love. It can be such a confusing word in our language. I can say, I love my children, and I can say, I love watching Downton Abbey. Both of these statements are true, but I assure you that my feelings for watching the adventures of the Crawley family pale in comparison to the connection I have with my children. Love means a lot of different things. People experience love differently, even love that might look the same on the outside. The ancient Greeks had something that helped, different words for different kinds of love. One is eros. Eros is the passion that young lovers feel for each other. It's the romantic head over heels love that's also often connected with physical attraction. Many of us think of romantic love as adorable or even enviable, and it can be. But the ancient Eros love is what most of the songs on the radio are about, but the ancient Greeks often considered it dangerous because of its out-of-control nature and the way these feelings can get you into trouble. Eros is a very powerful force. There's also pragma, or long-standing love. Those who have been married for a long time know that the crazy new crush feeling does not last until the golden wedding anniversary. It's something else, it's a different love. Pragma is based in compromise, in mutual regard and respect, in tolerance. I have heard that when we start a relationship, we fall in love, and that over time we instead stand in love. That is pragma. It makes me sad when I hear that folks think that if the crazy eros feeling fades, it means the relationship is over and you need to move on to a new eros. But the love of pragma, which sounds a lot like pragmatic, is a fine love that will see you through the hills and valleys that life offers up to us. It's a comforting and warm love. Another word supplied to us by the ancient Greeks is philia, the love of deep friendship. We have philia for a comrade who we fought side by side with on the battlefield or in the trenches of a social movement. These are those old high school or college friends that we still feel so close to, or the reading group that has met every month for a decade. Philia is more constant than eros, more reliable and lasting. There is ludos, or playful love. Ludos can range from a flirtatious dance to the joking and playfulness that happens at a festival. Most of us have had the experience of flirting with or suggestive kidding with someone just because it was fun. It didn't mean anything like a deep connection. It is a kind of mutual gain. Ludus is only problematic when it is confused for something different than what it is. Then there's agape love, the selfless love for other human beings. We often refer to this love as compassion or empathy. Agape is what keeps nurses warm and friendly as they care for patients with dementia, and what urges the firefighters to run towards the flames. Buddhists call it loving kindness. If you were to read the Christian Bible in its original Greek, this is the word that you would see over and over, agape. In fact, the reading from 1 Corinthians that we so often hear, the one about faith, hope, and love, isn't about the love between honeymooners, wonderful as that is. It's about agape. Here's part of that famous passage with the word compassion inserted as a better translation than love. If I speak in the tongues of mortals and angels, but do not have compassion, I am a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. And if I have prophetic powers and understand all mysteries and knowledge, and if I have faith so as to move mountains, but do not have compassion, I am nothing. If I give away all my possessions and I hand over my body to be burned, but do not have compassion, I gain nothing. Compassion is patient. Compassion is kind. Compassion is not envious or boastful or arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice in wrongdoing, but rejoices in the truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Compassion never ends. Prophecies will come to an end, tongues will cease, knowledge will come to an end. Now, faith, hope, and compassion, abide these three, and the greatest of these is compassion. Last on the list of words for different kinds of love is philautia, or the way you love yourself. This kind of love needs to be balanced. The self-love that is positive self-esteem and a happy self-confidence, that's good. We need to love ourselves and treat ourselves as valuable people, because doing so helps us take good care of ourselves and provides a base from which we can love others. But then there's arrogant and narcissistic self-love that can be destructive. It can overshadow the compassionate agape love and keep a person focused on themselves alone, and that's not so good. In the movie by the same name, Forrest Gump says, "Life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get." Is that true of love as well, that you never know what you're going to get? Well, life is full of surprises, and love can be as well. And now our second reading, and this is one from the history of Newcastle on Tyne Unitarians. This is the story of Jack Green. And I have to begin by saying this piece was written by me. It was written by me following a diving trip I took to Orkney. I think many of you know that I'm a keen scuba diver, and it's probably becoming a running joke that I mention scuba diving at every possible opportunity. And I've somehow managed to get it into this service, which is a record even for me. So this is the story of Jack Green and my visit, where I found something very interesting about Newcastle on Tyne Unitarians. Though many people might not associate the chilly north of Scotland with world-class scuba diving, Scapa Flow in the Orkney Islands is famous throughout the scuba world as one of the world's top wreck diving sites. It is the home to the scuttled World War I German High Seas Fleet, the German Navy, that was captured by the British and their allies. It is fair to say, however, that Orkney is perhaps not really known as a location with particularly strong links to either Newcastle on Tyne or Unitarianism, although there was a Unitarian retreat there for some years. You may imagine then that I was somewhat surprised when, in 2017, I called by the Scapa Flow Museum in Lynas during a week-long scuba diving trip to read about the history of the wrecks. I was confronted by a photograph of a familiar pair of gates. The nearby members of staff may have been surprised to hear someone pointing at a cabinet and shouting, "That's my church." The gates in question are the entrance gates of our own Church of the Divine Unity. The pillars are clearly visible, with a wedding party standing before them. The text accompanying the photograph, written by Judith Green, the daughter of the couple, explains why they appear in an Orcadian museum. My parents, Jack and Marjorie Green, were married just after Jack returned home on leave from Russia, where he was serving in the British Navy. A provisional date had been set for the wedding, which Jack confirmed by a secret message in a telegram. The magic phrase was, "I hope Mr. Barnes is well." Mr. Barnes was, of course, the Reverend Herbert Barnes, who was minister at the Unitarian Church in Newcastle upon Tyne, where they were to be married. And the message meant that Jack would be returning home in time for the wedding. Personally, of course, I, Louise Reeve, never met Reverend Herbert Barnes. His ministry ended in 1951, long before my time. But one of the senior members of our church was able to locate the marriage entry in the church registry, and we sent a copy up to the museum. It can be seen in the photograph, which is in the order of service. I have sent that by email, but we'll also put it in the chat in due course. The marriage entry shows their full names, John Gordon Green and Marjorie Gibson. There is a copy of the wedding photo of him in his Navy uniform and a congratulations telegram from his naval colleagues who were still serving at their base in Archangel in Russia. So a small story there of a wartime wedding. And now let us pray. I have a prayer to read, then we will have some time for silent prayer and reflection, followed by some music. The music is by Elizabeth Hornby called For My Beloved. But first, let's pray. Here is A Hymn to Love, an all-inclusive Valentine by Gary Kowalski. Appropriate since next week we will be having our Valentine's Day miscellany. So here is a bit of a lead into it. We give thanks for love, agape and eros, chocolate and pillow talk and all of Cupid's arrows, for unrequited yearning and the grand passion burning, for quiet appreciation and platonic contemplation. For lovers too we offer thanks, those gay and straight, near and dear, gender metamorphic or beautifully queer. For swooning adolescents and seniors in senescence, who are the bloom and life's bouquet, the hearts and flowers of Valentine's Day. For all that makes our pulses run, heart rates quicken, and keeps tickers ticking. We bless you, Creator, who made Eve with Adam, and filled the world with sirs and madams, and many more besides. For birds and bees and varieties of conjugation, we lift our voice in celebration. Amen. What is love in the 21st century? Well, this service is part of the Celebration of Love and Weddings initiative by Reverend Melda Grantham, who has been able to join us today. Hello, Melda. She is the wedding lead for the General Assembly, who recently invited UK Unitarian congregations to take part in a survey of weddings and their role within our movement, and to take part in a celebration of love, which is a Unitarian initiative taking place between the 21st of January, which marks Dyd Santes Dwynwen, the Welsh patron saint of lovers, whose name I've unquestionably mangled given my poor Welsh pronunciation. I do apologise to both the saint and any Welsh listeners. And the 14th of February, which of course is St. Valentine's Day. Melda and those of us involved in it do hope to repeat this next year, because we've been unable to do all that we wanted to do due to COVID, and it's not been easy to get things to happen in person. But the intention is that it's going to be an opportunity for congregations to invite couples who've been married in the buildings, along with their families, friends, people planning to get married, the local community, anyone and everyone, to a special event which will take any form that our congregations wish. And at Newcastle, we do hope we'll be taking part in this in future. As we've heard at the start, there's a huge number of different types of love. Hopefully, we'll all experience at least some of them over the course of our human lifetimes. And next week, we are going to have a Valentine's Day miscellany led by Ben, in which we will celebrate romantic love in particular. I also want to talk now about romantic love, partly because there are so many kinds of love. One could speak all morning on philautia, philia, and agape, and perhaps we will return to these kinds of love in future services. But now, as we approach spring, Imbolc, and Valentine's Day, let's talk of romantic love, ludus, eros, and pragma. What do Unitarians think about love and marriage? Here's what some modern Unitarians had to say about this in response to the Reverend Sue Woolley's recent research a couple of years ago, asking Unitarians about their views on various topics, including the question, what are your views on gender, sex, and marriage? This is from her book, Celebrating Diversity. One person summed up the complexity of this very neatly. What a huge and complex question. So much of what is acceptable in relation to gender, sexuality, marriage is determined by culture, economics, and the political climate. Then religion is invoked to back up the majority opinion based on what most people feel is the safe thing to do. So I'm nervous about giving definitive answers here, except to say that all human relationships must be based on appreciating the worth and dignity of each other and an absence of exploitation of any kind. Two other people echoed this, writing, "Love is love. Who am I to judge what is right for another? And what matters is that relationships are genuine and caring and non-abusive." Several people believed that all varieties of sexual orientation and gender identity should be celebrated as part of natural human diversity. One wrote simply, "People are people. We are all individuals, each with our own ways of being and doing things. There are things we can't help about our own character, such as our height, our eye colour, the length of our fingers, the genes, our skin colour, our parentage, and our sexuality, among many other things." Unitarians famously have campaigned for marriage equality, for the rights of same-sex couples to marry. Our chief officer at the time, Derek McCauley, gave evidence in Parliament during the debate over the Marriage Same-Sex Couples Bill, which became law in July 2013. 1 year earlier, in 2012, our movement made history when Cross Street Unitarian Chapel in Manchester became the first place of worship to register for civil partnerships. And after the passing of the Same-Sex Couples Bill, Ullett Road Unitarian Church in Liverpool conducted the first religious same-sex marriage in the UK. What do I feel about this considerable achievement? Well, firstly, I hope that at some point in the future, this congregation will be in a position to register our building as a place for same-sex marriage. This is something that has to be done as a separate action to registering it as a place of worship and a place of opposite-sex marriage. We have not done it yet due to the impending sale of our building. Currently, the United Reformed Church near the Church of the Divine Unity is the only site in Newcastle on Tyne where same-sex couples can marry. But secondly, I feel as though we have opened a previously closed door and walked out of a small room, only to find another room on the other side containing many more closed doors that we didn't perhaps realise were there. Do we actually have marriage equality? Well, in England and Wales, you can marry someone of your gender or the opposite gender, which is great if you identify as male or female, whether that's as a cisgender man or woman or a transgender man or woman. But what if you don't? What if you are gender fluid or non-binary? To clarify a few words I'm using, the term cisgender refers to a person whose gender identity matches the sex, male or female, which is on their original birth certificate. A transgender person is someone who does not feel this way. Gender fluid refers to change over time in a person's gender expression or their gender identity or both, and someone who is non-binary does not identify as either exclusively male or exclusively female. Here's one non-binary person's story. This is by Claire Rudy Foster, who is also known as Foster, planning my wedding as a non-binary bride. I started seeing Charlie 5 years after my first marriage ended. On our first date, I was charmed by his intelligence, humour, and good looks. He was traditional but deviant, a lawyer with a wild streak, a community-minded, policy-loving geek. He wore thick glasses, and when he took them off, his eyes were a shade of hazel that made my knees wobble. There was another date and another one, and then we were in a relationship. When I told him I was trans, I could feel him absorbing every syllable as it left my mouth. He took my news and my feelings about it seriously. I'm in a body that isn't saying the right things. It's not me, I explained. I feel like I'm wearing a rubber suit all the time and nobody can see me inside it. I see you, he said. I knew he did. I felt it. He asked me if I was going to change my name or my body, and I said I wasn't ready to decide yet. He proposed to me on a night in July with a ring he'd designed himself. I asked Charlie if he was going to wear a suit to our wedding. Maybe we should both wear suits, I suggested, since, you know, me. I imagined us side by side, two tall, athletic blondes in matching tuxedos, and shook my head because we'd look like a pair of grooms. And I wasn't eligible for that role either. When you close your eyes and imagine your wedding, what do you see? I asked. He closed his eyes and was quiet. Well, I see a beautiful bubble of pure light, he finally said. That's me? He nodded. You don't just see a white dress and a veil and stuff. I just see you, he said, and kissed me. My uncle generously offered to make me a second wedding dress, having made the one for my first one. I wanted it based on Grace Kelly's dress in To Catch a Thief, a blue silk gown. The sewing room, piled high with bolts of fabric, half-finished projects and trim, was quiet. My uncle's husband was singing in the kitchen, loading a pod in the coffee maker. I swallowed hard, my own voice suddenly stuck in my throat. The dress I showed you was very feminine, I finally said. The thing is, I've changed a lot since my first wedding. I think I'd be happier in an even simpler design. I mean, less girly, no frills. I want to look completely sleek, elegant. He nodded again and made a couple of notes. It will be obviously simple. Aerodynamic, I said. And he looked at me, and I could tell that he knew. I might as well have told him I wanted to dress up like a seahorse. We can do that, he said. And then he said the thing to me that he always says. The heart wants what the heart wants, right? When I walk down the aisle this time in front of every person who knows me, it'll be as someone who lives in their body, not a bride on a cake, but as myself. So in the UK at present, you must present yourself as male or female, regardless of whether that is your gender in order to marry. Is that really equality? Or do we need to open another closed door and let some more light in? Perhaps we should go further. Some American Unitarian Universalists certainly have. They have created the UUPA Society, Unitarian Universalists for Polyamory Awareness. They describe polyamory as the philosophy and practice of loving or relating intimately to more than one person at a time, with honesty and integrity. Polyamory is a general term covering a wide variety of possible relationships. The essential feature of all these styles is the realization that it's possible to have multiple simultaneous love relationships in the context of openness, honesty, and integrity. Is this another door that we should be opening? And what of people who are asexual, demisexual, and aromantic? Yet more definitions. An asexual person does not experience sexual attraction to anyone. An aromantic person does not experience romantic attraction. And a demisexual person can only experience sexual attraction after first developing a strong emotional bond. One of my abiding memories of the Working on Our Welcome LGBTQIA+ awareness course for Unitarians and liberal religious people, which I attended in 2018, was the empathy exercise in which we heard 7 descriptions of different people. Here's a few of them. Ali is approaching 40, studying part-time for a degree, working part-time for a charity, and their youngest child has recently started school. They are trans and non-binary gendered. Jim is in his late 20s. He enjoys pub quizzes and has recently taken up pottery. Jim is asexual. Zena has recently celebrated her 50th birthday and works for a web design company. She's polyamorous and shares a house with her 2 partners, Peter and Steve. We were asked to think about what might make people feel comfortable or uncomfortable when they join us. What do they encounter before the service, during it, after it, and at other activities? Are the doors of our congregations open to people whose sexual orientation does not match what we have traditionally thought sexual orientation and gender identity look like? How do we look through their eyes? Sometimes when you've got a lot of doors to look at, you can feel very confused, as though you no longer know which way to go. It can even be tempting to stay where you are, or perhaps to turn back and flee through the door behind you, pulling it shut. We can find ourselves wondering, if everything can be changed, is anything certain anymore? Our values may be called into question. Our unspoken beliefs suddenly need to be spoken about and our language challenged. We may find ourselves shouting inside our heads, "I didn't mean to cause any offence," or even thinking of that excellent quote by Grandpa Simpson as spoken to Homer. "I used to be with it, but then they changed what it was. Now what I'm with isn't it anymore, and what is it seems weird and scary." Or we may not. We is a funny word. Who's this we? Perhaps some of us are not thinking that. Perhaps some of us are thinking, "About time," or "Please, let me come here and be myself." Those unspoken assumptions can cut deep. I hope it's not oversharing to say that the unspoken assumption, both reflected within our society and sometimes within our religious life, that the highest aim of all human beings must be to be in a romantic relationship, and its downside, that if you're not, there's something a bit strange about you, can make life very difficult if you happen to be female, 40, child-free, and not married. Yet I do feel welcome here. We say all are welcome here. I think that to truly celebrate love, we need to realise that that's a journey, not a box to be ticked off, considered to be done. And we don't need to do any more. As we explore our own human nature, we need to continually think about who we all are and how we expand and grow our communities. Growth can hurt, but if we don't grow, we die. So instead, let us live together in love. And now it's time for some chocolate. Get your chocolate, or if you've not got chocolate, your other snack handy. So this again is by Reverend Sarah Movius-Scher, who says, "Like love, chocolate comes in many forms. The confection we usually think of as chocolate is made of processed cocoa beans mixed with some kind of fat and some kind of sugar. How much fat and sugar and whatever else they add determines a lot about what it tastes like. Have you ever tasted unsweetened baking chocolate? It's really bitter. Eating it isn't much fun. Bittersweet chocolate, on the other hand, is made of cocoa beans, cocoa butter, and sugar. The cocoa content is about 70%, and you can't eat too much of it because after too much, the bitterness shows through. Milk chocolate has more sugar and less cocoa, and there's no bitter aftertaste, but after a while, it can start to get a bit much. Chocolate can disappoint sometimes, and when you bite down into cheap, mass-produced chocolate, there can be so many additives that it just doesn't quite taste right. I think love can be like this. Not everyone has the same needs in terms of love. Just as some of us love the 70% cocoa chocolate or the unsweetened chocolate, while others like 75%, and there's even those who like white chocolate, there's a wide variety of tastes in what we look for in a loving relationship. Some people want excitement, some want comfort, and sometimes we don't get what we want. We get the unwelcome toffee penny in the quality street of life. In terms of eros and excitement, is it love or just a good time? The key to living in compassion and respect is to know what you seek, and if you enter a relationship, make sure you know what the other person seeks. So now, if you have a chocolate, a sweet, or another type of nibble that works for you, all together, unwrap it if you need to, and hold it in your hand. I'm going to keep mine on the foil so it won't melt everywhere. Look at the colour, smell the aroma. Is it melting a little with the heat of your hand? Is your mouth watering? Now, take what you're holding and rather than putting the whole thing in your mouth, just bite off a tiny bit and let it dissolve slowly without chewing. Notice the taste, the sweetness. Notice any other flavours present. How do you feel when you eat the chocolate? Is this flavour associated with any memories? When you are ready, go ahead and finish your treat in any way you want to. Unless you're me, I have to wait till the end so I can keep talking, but the rest of you go right ahead and enjoy yourself. You can continue to nibble at the edges, or you can pop the whole thing in your mouth or something in between. Which did you choose? When your chocolate is gone, how do you feel? Yes, love is like a box of chocolates. Both can involve some choice and some risk, as Forrest Gump well knew. Love and chocolate can bring you joy, but they can also be kind of messy. Different people have different tastes and different desires. But let us all know that our love and our life is honoured here as we grow together in a compassionate and loving community. Now our service comes towards its end. Blessed is the path on which you travel. Blessed is the body that carries you upon it. Blessed is your heart that hears love's call. Blessed is your mind that discerns the way. Blessed is the gift that you will receive by going. Truly blessed is the gift that you will become on the journey, and may you go forth in peace. And as we put out the physical flame of our chalice, may its light burn within our spirits until we meet to worship together once more. May it be so.